I'm Caitlin from SOA, and with me I have Robyn, and she's going to talk to you today about nutrition. So if you have any questions as we go, feel free to put them in the chat or hang on to them, and then Robyn will answer all your questions at the end. Okay, so now I will pass it off to Robyn.
Right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. For those of you who may not know who I am, I'm Robyn, and I'm a graduate student at the University of Calgary. I'm currently working on my research, which is in nutrition and dietary supplement use in various clinical populations. And I have a very special interest in athletes with a spinal cord injury. So tonight, I'm going to be talking to you guys about nutrition, and it's kind of just an introduction to nutrition. If you guys joined me in January for this seminar, then you probably know all of this stuff already, but it is a good reminder of what nutrition is and how we can be practicing really great nutrition habits to ensure that we are fueling our bodies properly. Especially you guys are athletes, so that is going to make your nutrition even more different and more specialized and more important. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I will answer questions at the very end. We also have a poll, so you guys can be a little bit more interactive with us. And if I am looking, it looks like I'm looking in a different direction, it's because I have two screens. So I'm just wanting to make sure I'm not missing any important information. Okay, so our overview tonight, you guys, we're going to be looking at the components of food. Then we're going to be looking at how much you eat and drink, and then when you should be eating and drinking foods. Okay, so the big question is, what exactly is food? Well, food is, they're substances that provide the body with two things, and those two things are nutrients and energy. So nutrients are very important and they're required for the growth and the functioning of our bodies. There are four main types of nutrients. They're going to be macronutrients, micronutrients, other non-nutrients, and of course, water. So macronutrients are the bigger nutrients and include carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Micronutrients are smaller nutrients and include vitamins and minerals. Other non-nutrients include things like antioxidants, pre and probiotics, polyphenols, and fiber. And of course, we all know what water is, and it helps us keep hydrated. So the other part is energy. So what's energy? Well, energy is essentially the calories that a food has, and it's a physical fuel that food contains. So the amount of energy a particular food is giving us. So if something has 50 calories, and it's giving us essentially 50 units of energy. So although everybody's going to have different amount of calories that they need throughout the day, we must ensure that we're not eating too many calories and we're not eating too little calories. So we don't want to eat too much more than we need, because that can put us at risk for weight gain. But we also want to make sure we're eating enough so that our body can continue to function properly and carry out all of its functions that it needs to do on a daily basis. Okay, so as you can see from this chart, food provides us with calories. There are four types of nutrients that provide us with calories. The first one is carbohydrates. So those would be things like bread, pasta, fruits, vegetables, and those guys all provide us with 4 calories per gram. Protein also is going to provide us with 4 calories per gram, and protein are things like meats and soy and tofu and things like that. On the other hand, fats, if we look at the chart, we can see that, wow, fats give us more than double the amount of energy than carbohydrates and proteins. They give us 9 calories per gram. So fats would include things like avocado, different types of oils, and nuts. Lastly, alcohol is something that also gives us calories, and it's giving us 7 calories per gram. Now, you might have noticed I did not include alcohol as a component of food in the macronutrients, and that's because although it gives us energy, it's not considered a nutritious substance. It's not benefiting our bodies in any way, so it's not actually thought of as a food substance, essentially. And lastly here, vitamins and minerals. So those are micronutrients. They do not provide us with any energy whatsoever, but they are very, very important in the very grand scheme of things. They're very, very tiny, but they do carry out chemical reactions in our bodies that we need to survive. Okay, so let's dive into each specific nutrient here. The first one, carbohydrates. They're going to be either simple sugars, so for example, white sugar that you're going to bake your cookies with, or complex carbs such as oatmeal or whole wheat bread. Carbohydrates are arguably the most important macronutrient because they are the ones providing with the most energy. Yes, they're not giving us the most calories, but they are what we use as energy at the end of the day. In fact, when we eat more carbohydrates than we need, the body can actually store them in our liver for later use, which is pretty cool. So if you ever feel like you're super hungry and then you kind of get you feel a little bit better, well, it's because your body is tapping into its stored glycogen, which is sugar essentially, tapping into that, breaking it down in the liver and giving it to our body. So we feel a bit better. We can survive a little bit longer without eating. Carbohydrates are very important for athletes such as yourself, so they can help with performance, keeping you energized, and helping our moods. So our brains they only can use carbohydrates for energy. If we eat only protein for the rest of our lives or only fats, we won't survive very long. We need carbohydrates. That's why you might feel a bit grumpy in the mornings, or if you are a bit hungry, you might feel grumpy. Get some carbohydrates in, you will probably feel better very, very soon. Okay, so that's kind of carbohydrates in a nutshell. So let's move on. So this slide I put in here, it kind of outlines some nutritious carbohydrates. I don't really like the words healthy and unhealthy. I think every food is here for a reason. It's just we can, make better choices and choose more nutritious foods. So we want to eat more of these types of carbohydrates. So as we can see from my pictures, we have legumes, we have lots of fruit, we have lots of vegetables, whole grain pastas, whole grain breads, things like that. And these types of carbohydrates are called complex carbohydrates, which means it takes our body longer to break them down and digest them. And the chemical compound is actually more complex, so our body has to work harder in order to break them down and then use them for energy. So it's that way it's going to provide us with a more sustained energy. Things like cookies, very simple sugar, that white sugar that you see, it's broken down very, very quickly. It actually starts in the mouth, in our saliva, and it's broken down very, very quickly. It's going to give us a quick energy boost, but it's not going to last long. So, you might feel energized for 10 to 15 minutes, and then you might feel what's called a sugar crash later on, and you're kind of back to that stage where you don't feel that great. You might be a bit hungry, a bit moody, things like that. So choosing more complex carbohydrates are going to give us sustained energy, whereas simple ones probably not going to give us prolonged energy that we need. Okay, so conversely, eating less nutritious carbohydrates. These things are perfectly fine in moderation. We just don't want to be eating them all the time. Mostly because there's very, very little nutrients in them. Something like a donut is not going to give you fiber. It's not going to give you vitamins and minerals. It's not going to give you water. So these are things to kind of steer away from and not depend on them every single day. So like I said, they're going to spike your blood sugar for a bit. That's great. You have some energy, but 20 minutes later, you might not feel that great. So definitely you want to avoid these things as much as you can, especially before competitions, practices, games, things like that, where you need that sustained, whole, good energy. Okay, I can't see the chat right now. I'm going to figure this out, but we did this last time. If you guys can type in the chat your favorite healthy carbohydrates that you like, and maybe a healthy carbohydrate you've never tried, but you would like to try. And then if you guys can think of a carbohydrate that you could eat instead of something else. So let's see. My favorite healthy carbohydrates, I love fruit and vegetables so much. I also love oatmeal. Which healthy carbohydrates would I be brave enough to try? Ooh, I don't know. I feel like I've tried quite a lot and a variety of carbohydrates, maybe different fruits that are uncommon in Canada. And then can I think of a healthy carbohydrate? I would say whole grain bread over white bread. And I'm trying to find the chat here. Dun, dun, dun. Here we go. Apples, oatmeal, popcorn. I love popcorn. Popcorn is awesome. Lots of fiber in there. Fruit, vegetables. I do eat kale leaves. Yeah, those are awesome. Kale's really, really great. I love it in smoothies. Fruits, apples, rice, perfect. Bread, apples, lots of apple lovers here. That's great. Okay, I'll do a couple more. Pasta. I love pasta too. It's so easy to cook. I feel like whenever I don't know what to make for dinner, I always just make pasta. Pears. Oh, that's great. Pears are one of the fruits that are really high in fiber, so that's really great. Peaches. Oh, I love peaches. I think peach season is coming soon. Saskatoon berries. Oh, love those. Saskatoon berries are arguably one of the best berries for you. Tons of antioxidants, even more so than blueberries. Raspberries. Okay, this is awesome, you guys. I love it. I'm going to keep going, but feel free to keep talking in the chat. I'm just
Robyn,
going
I'm
to
just going to jump in for a second. Ren, did you have something that we needed to help you with? Do you have an urgent question? Ren, I think you're muted. Okay, we'll move on and then I will talk to Ren in the chat.
Are we good? Okay, perfect. Let's continue. Okay. I put this in here. You guys probably remember it from last time, but this is how much sugar is in that drink. Drinking pop, not an issue. Maybe not every day. But if we look at the back of that pop can and we zoom in on that nutrition label, we can see that there's 65 grams of carbohydrate in this drink. And this is not the little cans. This is like the 580 mils, so it is a bit bigger. But so keep that in mind. But if we look at that, okay, we think, well, most people will say, okay, 65 grams of carbs, like whatever, doesn't really mean anything to me. But if we zoom in to underneath that carbohydrate and we see sugars, 65 grams of sugar. And again, lots of people might not think that means all that much to them, but I measured out for you guys. I did this last time as well. And if we measured it out, there's this much sugar in that can of Coke. And it might not look that much, but here's my hand compared to the cup. And if I take it and I'm going to pour it into my bowl, we can see just how much sugar that is. Now, just imagine chugging that cold can of Coke on a hot summer day. That's how much sugar you're putting into your body. So again, everything in moderation. That's my view of life and nutrition, but we don't want to be drinking that much every day. Another tip is to not chug your pop, spread it out throughout, an hour and a half, just so you are giving your body time to digest and process those sugars and utilize them throughout the body rather than chugging it and your body's going to go into shock essentially with a sugar spike. It's going to be pumping insulin into your body. So we want to make sure that we are spreading it out so your body's not going into overdrive trying to control the sugar intake essentially. Okay, let's move on to protein, you guys. So protein, just like carbohydrates, provides the body with 4 carbohydrates per gram, and it is, again, very important to our bodies. So protein itself is made of 20 different types of amino acids. And what you can think of amino acids, you can think of as building blocks. So if we have a Lego structure, we see a house made of Lego, that's going to be the protein, and each individual Lego brick is going to be the amino acids. And so, and then we can think of the Lego, the different colors as the different types of amino acids. So the blue Lego will be a different amino acid than the green Lego, then the red Lego, then the yellow Lego. So that's an easy way to think of protein and amino acids. And so if we think of our body as the structure itself, the house, we want to make sure that we are having enough amino acids and enough of those bricks to ensure that we can properly function and we're getting enough. So there are 9 what we call essential amino acids, and that means our body cannot produce them. So we have to ingest them through food. And then there's going to be 9 non-essential amino acids, which means that even if we don't eat foods that contain them, we're going to be okay because our bodies can actually produce them itself. And typically they're produced from the other amino acids, breaking them down, turning them into the non-essentials that we don't need to ingest. Just looking at my notes here. So it's important to note that we do not have to eat animal products to get protein. So a lot of the time people think, okay, protein is cheese, it's meat, it's eggs. Perfect, totally. Those things contain a lot of protein, but we can also get protein from other things like soybeans, tofu, fortified beverages, milk, dairy product, yes. Let's see what else. So legumes, beans, things like that, peanut butter, nuts. So there are a lot of non-animal sources that can give us protein. So another thing to keep in mind with a protein is if you're eating something that does not have all of the amino acids, that's called an incomplete protein. So let's say the food has 15 out of 20 amino acids, that's going to be called an incomplete protein. A complete protein has every amino acid. So complete proteins are going to be animal products. Incomplete, non-animal products. But that's okay. If we take two non-animal products that have different amino acids in them, we eat them together, then we're probably going to get all of the amino acids that we need. So my point being, if you are vegan or vegetarian, you're going to be fine. You're going to get enough protein. Most people they eat way over the recommended or needed amount that they need anyway. You'll be shocked if you track your diet for a couple of days, you plug it into the system, into the software, all of you, I can guarantee you're going to be eating enough protein. Okay, back to the chat. What are your favorite protein foods? Which protein foods would you like to try? I would say my favorite, I love beef. I love I love a good steak. I love eggs too. And the ones I would like to try, I think I would like to try tempeh. It's very similar to tofu. It is a bit different just in the way it's processed. Chicken, steak and eggs and fish. Fish. Ooh, I love fish. Pork. You want to try sushi? Sushi. Yeah, you can get protein from the sushi, from the fish. Chicken. Bugs. That's interesting. I heard that bugs are going to be a really hot commodity soon, especially crickets. They're very high in protein. I love to try pork, seafood, shrimp. Awesome. Scallops. Ooh, I love scallops. Seafood is delicious. Perfect. Okay. Cheese. I want to try tempeh. Yep, me too. I definitely want to try that. Turkey. Want to try salmon. Yeah, salmon's a great source of omega fatty acids too. Crab. Awesome. Okay, that's great, you guys. Thank you so much for your answers. I think we're going to move on. I think fats are coming up next. Perfect. Okay, so our last macronutrient is fat. There are different types of fat, and fat provides us with 9 calories per gram. Different types of fats include saturated fats, unsaturated fats, essential fatty acids, and cholesterol. Now, what's the difference between all of them? Basically, the difference between all of them is their chemical compound. So if we go back to our chemistry days in high school, maybe you were taught this. If we look at the chemical bonds between them, that's going to be the difference between the types of fats. So fats provide us with lots of energy, more than double of that, the carbohydrates and protein. They're really important for a lot of different things. They help keep us warm. We all have a little layer of fat around our tissue, our organs, etc. That's keeping us warm. They also protect our organs. Even if someone has a six-pack, they still have a layer of fat underneath the muscle, and that's going to help protect our organs from trauma. They also help with our joint lubrication. They help with our hair, our skin, our nails, things like that. So fats are really, really, really are important. They get a bad rap, but you don't need to be afraid of good healthy fats. There is a type of diet I'll mention called the ketogenic diet. Maybe you are on it, maybe you've tried it, etc. And that's just a diet that's very, very high in fat and very, very low in carbohydrate and low to moderate, I would say, protein. Um, It is a diet that is thought to essentially high fat is going to be creating like ketones in the body, breaking the down, and then you can lose weight that way. Um, it is not sustainable. There's a lot of research out there saying that no, 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 stay away from ketogenic diet. Yes, you can lose weight, but it is not sustainable. You're not getting enough carbohydrates. Your body, you're going to feel fatigue, tired, moody. Those are just some of the side effects you can get from ketogenic diet because you're not eating enough carbohydrates. So I would not recommend ketogenic diet, and I don't think a lot of registered dietitians would either, especially for you guys athletes. You need the carbohydrates for energy. Oh, okay, so yes to the fats below. So salmon, eggs, nuts, avocado. You can see some olive oil there. So those are good fats. Stay away from the less nutritious fats, so things like fried foods, bacon, donuts, all the good stuff, right? I don't know why why do foods that not taste good or taste the best are not that great for us, but I don't know why. It's torture. But we really do want to stay away from those types of food as much as we can. Those types of fats, saturated fats, trans fats, really not good for the body. Trans fats are actually man-made. They were chemically composed in a laboratory somewhere in the world to basically extend the shelf life of foods. So things like butter, margarine, etc. So they're pumped into these foods to elongate their shelf life. But what they didn't realize is they're clogging our arteries. So we want to try and stay away from trans fats altogether as much as we can. Okay, let's move on to our macronutrients. These guys are vitamins and minerals. There's 13 essential vitamins, including vitamin A, the B vitamins, C, D, E, and K. These are all providing different functions in our bodies, including bone health, teeth health, heart health, etc. There are 15 essential minerals, including calcium, zinc, iron. The amount of vitamins and minerals that you will need will depend on your age and your gender, and there are guidelines available, so you can always just look them up, Google them. Excuse me, on based on your gender and your age, it'll tell you there's kind of a range between what your minimum and the maximum that you need. And so that will depend on how much you need or not. It can also depend on your activity level. So sometimes athletes will need more of a specific vitamin or mineral. So for example, endurance runners, so runners who run long distances, probably over, I would say 10K, they sometimes are prescribed iron, and that's because they can often lose iron. As crazy as it sounds, when you're running, you actually lose iron through your feet, which is so crazy. But if we think about it, we're constantly running, we're hitting the ground with our heels, and what we're doing is we're breaking baby capillaries in the feet. And so when we bleed, we lose blood, and blood contains iron. And even internal bleeds, just tiny micro bleeds like that, can affect our bodies that much that we're losing iron, and therefore we need to supplement with iron tablets or pills or whatever to ensure that we're not losing enough and that we don't become anemic. So anemic is just when we don't have enough iron in the blood, and we can become fatigued, very tired, moody, etc. So things like that. Okay, so just looking at my notes here, you guys, sorry. Yeah, so these are kind of, so yeah, like I said, vitamins, minerals, keeping us healthy. They're also giving us energy. So we're eating the macronutrients, but the micronutrients actually help break those macronutrients, so the fat, protein, carbs, down, so our bodies can use them. And things like iron are actually going to be transporting nutrients through our bodies. And so we definitely need a lot of vitamins and minerals. I would say some people ask, well, what if I eat too much? Like, can I overdose on vitamins and minerals? And the answer is yes, but it would depend on which one, and also how much. Like, you really need a lot to overdose, but definitely don't like take more than the recommended amount on the back of the bottle, or talk to your physician before you're taking supplements. But it is difficult, I would say, to overdose. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat soluble. So what that means is when you're eating those 4 vitamins, our body is storing them. We eat too much, our body's going to store it. So that's how we can become to the point where we overdose. But vitamins like vitamin C, and vitamin B, we really can't overdose because our bodies will just pee it out essentially. So if you're drinking 3 cups of orange juice and you see on the back of the label 1 cup has 100% of our vitamin C that we need, don't worry, it's just gonna come out of the body. So our body has a really great way to regulate the amount of vitamins and minerals inside of it. And so it's hard to overdose, but like I said before you take any supplements, talk to your physician, what you should be taking and how much you should be taking. Okay, non-nutrients are phytochemicals that are plant-derived, and they help the body, and they actually may reduce the risk of disease. So for example, beta carotene is the non-nutrient or the phytochemical that is giving carrots the orange color, kind of the yellow-orange color that's produced from beta carotene, and that's something that's going to be helping us, let's say eyesight, helping vitamin A in the carrot get throughout our bodies. So these are tiny, teeny weeny chemicals that are going to be, again, helping our bodies carry out the functions that we need to do. Okay, lastly, water. We all know what water is. It's going to help us cool us down. It is going to help us feel less tired, hydrate the body, and avoid dehydration. We want to avoid dehydration at all costs, especially as athletes. We're not going to be able to perform as well if we are dehydrated. We can lead to dizziness, fatigue, heart palpitations, lots of bad side effects. So we want to make sure that we are drinking enough. We even want to be drinking after we stop exercising. Why? Well, because even if we stop exercising, our bodies are still sweating, we're still cooling down, and we are still thus losing sweat and water. So we want to make sure that even after we exercise, we want to continue to ingest water to make sure that we are staying as hydrated as we can. Okay, question back to the chat, you guys. What restaurants do you usually eat at when traveling? And what are some possible healthy choices? And speaking of water, I'm going to take a sip of mine. Just going to open the chat. Subway, perfect. Subway is great. Various restaurants, A&W. Water is important after exercise. Yes, Smitty, Subway, Earl's. Perfect. I'm not here to say whether or not a certain restaurant is good or bad. I feel like every restaurant has more nutritious choices and every restaurant has less nutritious choices. So as long as you're feeling your body's properly before and after exercise and even during exercise, then that's all good. Boston Pizza, Wendy's, Moxie's, Opa, McDonald's, Subway. So lots of fast food, and I get it. Fast food is obviously fast and convenient. I've been there too as an athlete, going through the Tim Hortons drive-through. I've been there myself. So I'm not here to say like, oh, don't eat here, don't eat there. It all depends on what your body can tolerate. Some people don't even like to eat before training or exercising, which again, you have to figure out what's best for your body. All right, let's get back. Okay, let's move on. So I put a couple of slides in here about nutrition facts. So the first one, food labels. A lot of the time, do we look at what the food actually contains? Do we look at the label behind the packaging? I don't know. Do we? Sometimes. I know I don't. A lot of the time, I'm like, oh, those crackers look good. Let's buy them. But it is important to take a look at what we are actually consuming. So if we flip over the packaging, we can find the nutrition label. So the blue at the top, it's going to highlight the amount that the label is referring to. So this one is referring to 1 can. I don't know what that 1 can is. Looking at everything, it looks like it's going to be some type of fruit juice. So yeah, that's going to be the amount. Next is calories. So that, again, that's just the energy that food is giving us. Next is fat, sodium. So we can see the actual amount in the units given, and then on the right side we can actually see the percentage. Now this percentage is based on the standardized 2,000 calories per day person. That's not going to be for everybody. So if you are someone who needs 1,500 calories, then those percentages are going to be different. If you're someone who needs 3,000 calories, those percentages are going to be different. So take it with a grain of salt. Don't be like, oh, that's 18% of my carbs right now, or my potassium. Not necessarily, depending on your body type and your body's needs. So we can see potassium, we can see carbohydrate, underneath carbohydrate, sugar, protein, and then underneath protein is where you're going to get your vitamins and minerals. So the only two that are actually needed are, I believe, vitamin C and folate, the two there. And if a food does not have other ones, like they don't have vitamin B, they don't have vitamin D, they're just not going to list them. They're not going to put 0%. They're just not going to put them on there. If they do have other ones, then they will list them below as well. As you can see at the very bottom, it says not a significant source of saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, fiber, vitamin A, calcium, or iron. So it'll tell you if it's a source or not. So you can kind of judge based on the food label, whether or not you think it's best for your body, and whether or not you want to consume it. Okay, so this kind of gets into the question, well, how much am I supposed to eat? Well, it's unfortunately not a straight answer. And again, I'm going to say it depends. It depends on your gender. It depends on your age. It depends on your height. It depends on your weight. It depends on your goals, whether you're trying to gain weight, whether you're trying to maintain, whether you're trying to lose weight. If you're an athlete, what type of athlete, what training phase you're in. There's a plethora of things that the amount of food that you need depends on. But in general, uh, we can kind of see from this chart. So as you can see, I put your age group and then percentage calories from, and then the three macronutrients. So age 1 to 3, 4 to 18, 19 plus, well, we can see that carbohydrates across the board, across the lifespan, 45 to 65% of your daily calories should be coming from carbohydrates. Why? Well, we need carbohydrates to survive, for energy, for fuel, etc. So it doesn't matter what age you are, we need the carbohydrates, we need the energy. Now, one thing I will point out here, there's infants, so 0 to 1 years old are not on here. And that's because when you're that young, you'll be getting most, if not all, of your fuel from breast milk. And that's just essentially protein and fat. So that's just not really taken into consideration for this type of chart. Okay, if we look at protein, 1 to 3 years, 5 to 20%, 4 to 18, 10 to 30, 19 plus, 10 to 35. So in a way, it kind of goes up. So if you go 20, 30, 35%, your protein goes up. And that's because as we age, we naturally lose muscle mass. And that's just, it's inevitable. You can't avoid it. It's just going to happen, unfortunately. So what you need to do is increase your protein as we age to ensure that we are maintaining and keeping as much muscle mass on our bodies as we can. Essentially, it avoids what's called muscle wasting, and that's just the breakdown, the degeneration of the muscle mass naturally by the body. When we look at fat, on the other hand, it's going to be kind of doing the opposite. So we can see when we're younger, we kind of need more fat. And as we get older, we kind of need a little bit less fat. And that's because, again, we need that energy growing up. When we are young, we are growing, we're developing. And what gives us the most energy? Fat. It's giving us more than double that of carbohydrates and protein. So it's an easy fuel source to help us put on muscle, put on mass, put on weight, and grow. So that's kind of the basis on why fat is starting really high and then kind of going down. But if you think about it, 35% is still a lot of your calories. So you don't have to completely avoid fat at all, not at all. And if you look at protein, your minimum fat 20%, your minimum protein 10%. So you really don't need to shy away from fat at all. Just making sure you're eating mostly nutritious types of fat. Okay, another thing, how much to eat. Yes, we can base it on numbers, but we can also base it on how we feel. So if we feel hungry, do we need to eat? Yes, our body is literally telling us that it needs fuel. If we feel dizzy, oftentimes we feel feeling dizzy is a side effect of being hungry. We don't feel good, our blood sugars are low, we're going to feel side effects. We're going to feel kind of out of sorts, if you will. And dizziness is definitely a common symptom of being hungry. We feel tired, of course. We don't have fuel in our tummies. We need to be eating something to feel more energized. Thirsty. Oftentimes, people think thirst is just a direct reaction of our body needing water, and probably is, of course, but thirst can also be a direct indication that we are actually hungry. And oftentimes it can be mistaken or overlooking, but yes, it can be a sign of we are hungry. Body weight, like I alluded to this a little bit before, but if we're trying to gain weight, of course, we're going to be eating more. If we want to be losing weight, we might go in a caloric deficit a little bit, nothing crazy. If we want to maintain, we kind of just eat intuitively, I suppose, to maintain our weight that way. And of course, exercise. If you're athletes like you guys, if you guys are in competitions, if you're in training phase, if you're in competition phase, of course, you're going to be needing a little bit extra because you're going to be burning a lot of energy during those games and practices, etc. If you're off season not training, then you probably don't need to be eating as much, just because we are not, or you guys are not burning, you're not going to games, you're not going to competitions, etc. On the other side of here, we can see I put a little plate here. We kind of broke it up into 4 sections: fruit, vegetables, protein, grains, and our cup of dairy. That's kind of where it's getting at here. So oftentimes you might have heard, oh, half your plate should be vegetables and then a quarter carb and a quarter grain. That's kind of what it's getting at here, because fruits and vegetables are combined into one food group, and those are going to be your healthy carbohydrates, where you're getting a lot of vitamins and minerals from. Okay, when to eat for performance. I'm going to try go a little bit. Actually, we're getting close to the end, so no rush. Okay, so this slide is really great for you guys because you guys are, of course, athletes. So when do we want to eat for exercising performance? Well, we want to eat foods to ensure that we are avoiding stomach problems. If we don't eat before we perform, or before a game or something like that, we probably won't perform as well as we could have if we had eaten a snack or a meal beforehand. And that's simply because we don't have energy in our body. So our bodies, they're tapping into the glycogen stores in our liver, trying to break that down in order to give us some energy so we can perform. But that, of course, takes energy in itself, and it's really taking the focus away from, hitting a baseball with a baseball bat, kicking a soccer ball, things like that. And our body is really focused on ensuring that we have enough energy and that our blood sugars are level instead of our sport. So we do want to eat to avoid stomach issues like that, but we also need to ensure that we're eating the proper foods. A lot of athletes don't like to eat before competition, especially runners, because oftentimes you can have gastrointestinal upset or like stitches or cramps or even diarrhea, things like that. And of course, you want to avoid those as well. So you just have to kind of figure out what works best for your body. And the best method is going to be trial and error. So if you don't really know how your body feels with food before, what you can do is you can try eating, half an hour before a game, and then the next game an hour before, the next game 2 hours before, and just see which one makes you feel the most, or feel the best, and what performance outcome is going to be your best one. So if it turns out eating 30 minutes before your game is way, way, way too close, and you're still kind of digesting and you don't feel that great, well, maybe then the 1 hour is going to be the best time point for you. So it just, again, it depends. I can't give you one straight answer, unfortunately. You're just going to have to figure out what works best for your body. But in general terms, yes, physicians, dietitians, coaches, etc., they're going to recommend that you eat at least something small before your competition, even something as easy as a banana. Okay, like I said, you want to eat so you have energy for workouts. Bigger meals, you want to be, in general, you want to be consuming them a little bit ahead. So 3 to 4 hours. And that's just because you're eating probably a lot of food, and you want to make sure you're giving your body enough time to digest it. So you're not focusing on digesting when you're actually playing. So when we're digesting, where does our blood go? Well, it's going to go to our tummies. And that's because not all of our blood, of course, but the majority is going to be redirected to our stomachs to help digest. And if we're eating a big meal, 3, 4 slices of pizza before our game, while we go up to bat, okay, we can't, we're kind of shaking, our stomach might be rumbling a bit, and we strike out. Well, maybe it's because your blood is not in your arms, it's not in your heart, it's not in your brain. Most of it is being redirected to your stomach. And do we use our stomach for sports? Not really. So we want to make sure that we are eating enough and giving our bodies enough time to digest so that we are feeling good for our performance. The next point, snack 1 hour before. Again, you might not have to. It just depends on how you feel. I know when I played softball, I used to like having a snack. I usually brought a banana and a granola bar, and that's what I ate before a game. And that just helped me ensure that I have enough energy. For that. And of course, like I just said, adjust everything towards your body. But I will say, what types of foods should we be focusing on before games or competitions? Well, we should be eating foods that are high in fluid, so water, carbohydrates for energy, and that's basically it. We want to avoid protein, we want to avoid fat, and we want to avoid fiber. Why? Fat, we don't really need it for that. We need energy. Fat's not giving us, it is giving us energy, but not the type of energy that we need. We need sustained energy. We want to avoid protein because it's very difficult to digest, and we don't really need it before competition. We want to avoid fiber because fiber is helping us keep us regular, and we want to avoid things like constipation, diarrhea, having to go to the washroom, things like that. Also, fiber, the more fiber you eat, when you eat fiber, it's drawing water into your stomach, out of your cells into your stomach, because fiber attracts water. So we want to avoid eating fiber before games and competitions to ensure that we are staying hydrated and the water is not being sucked into our stomach, so to speak. So during competition, what do we want to eat? We want to, again, fluids, lots of water, Gatorade, sports drinks, etc., and carbohydrates. The best thing, most recommended, bananas during events lasting more than 1 hour. Or if you have like back-to-back games, having something quickly digestible, such as a banana between those games. After competition, now this is different. After the game, again, of course, water. And then we also want to be eating foods high in carbohydrate to refuel our glycogen stores. We've used up a lot of energy. Our body is fatigued. We don't have a lot of glycogen and glucose in our body, so we want to eat carbohydrates to get our blood sugars back up. But also we want to be eating protein. We've used our muscles. We've hit the baseball, we've thrown the football, we've kicked the soccer ball, etc. We use a lot of muscle energy. So we want to ensure that we are repairing our muscles properly, and that's going to be through eating protein. So if you think about it, fat's not really in the picture before, during, or after competition. So yeah, that's kind of, I mean, you can eat fat afterwards, of course, but it's not like it's super needed or super recommended. Okay. Oh, this is what I just talked about. Okay. During exercise, typically the cutoff point is 1 hour or longer is when we want to be eating something during that workout or that game. If we're working for half an hour, chances are we don't need a snack, but something over 1 hour, we might. And again, it depends on what your body can tolerate. Some people, such as runners, they like to have those little like gummy gels, and they just put them in their mouth, and it actually starts to break down in the mouth because they are very simple sugars. They're basically like candy, and essentially that's going to just give them a very, very quick amount of energy and a quick boost. Whereas someone who's maybe, I don't know, I'm just going to say a baseball game because that's what I'm used to growing up with. That's the game is over an hour, but you're not really exerting energy the entire time. When your team is batting, and you don't go up to bat during that inning, well, you're not really expending that much energy. So that oftentimes, it depends on your body, of course, but usually you don't really need a snack, even if the game is longer than an hour. But between games, for sure, you want to be eating. Um, so that's kind of the rule there. You also be wanting to eat if you're sweating a lot. So water, of course, but also sports drinks can be very beneficial here. You want to look out for the sugar content, of course, but since you are exercising, intaking that sugar is not going to be harmful because you are expending energy, and you are depleting your glycogen and glucose stores. So that type of sugar is totally fine. Things like Gatorade are also beneficial because they have electrolytes. And as we sweat, we are unfortunately losing electrolytes. And electrolytes are important. They help with our heartbeats, things like that. So we want to make sure that we are intaking those electrolytes back to make sure that we are staying hydrated. And again, our bodies can function properly. Okay, another thing, if you did not eat before exercise, let's say you finished work and you had to race over to your game right away, and unfortunately you don't want to eat in the car, you might want to eat a little snack during that game or your exercise to make sure that you are having enough energy. Okay, just a couple more slides, you guys. So after exercise, again, I kind of just touched on this already, but we want to eat foods that are high in protein and carbohydrates to help our muscles recover. We also want to ensure what we're eating is nutritious because it will help fuel us and prepare us for our next game. So what we eat today is actually going to be affecting us tomorrow. And people don't really seem to understand that, or maybe they just haven't heard of it before. But if you eat a lot of junk food today, you wake up tomorrow, you might feel a little bit sick, a little bit nauseous, maybe a little cranky, maybe a little bloated, things like that. So what you eat today is actually really going to affect you the next day. And so, of course, if we're in competition phase, we want to make sure that we are consistently fueling our bodies properly during maybe that 2 or 3 day weekend or competition, because what we eat on Friday, it's going to affect our games on Saturday. What we eat on Saturday is going to affect our games on Sunday, type of thing. So we really do want to be conscientious of what we are putting into our bodies, not only the day of competition, but the day before. And like I said, of course, carbohydrates and protein and recovery. We want to make sure that we are taking care of our bodies, because after the exercise has finished, that is when our bodies are going to go into recovery mode. They're going to help rebuild those tissues. When we use our muscles, we're actually breaking them down. We're creating little micro tears in the muscle tissue. And what we eat afterwards is what's going to be used to repair. So we need to ensure that we are giving our bodies lots of carbohydrates, lots of protein. Those proteins are going to be broken down into the amino acids, and those amino acids are what's going to be coming into let's say our bicep, and they're going to be helping repair those micro tears in our tissues. Okay, now on to the fun stuff. Okay, Caitlin, I might need your help on this, but I wanted to quickly go over COVID-19 and nutrition. So COVID-19 has changed the way we are eating. People are typically they're eating more because we're at home. We're not exercising as much. Sports, maybe they're starting a little bit now, but sports teams for a long time were shut down. Gyms were closed. Group exercise, things like that are all shut down. And in the winter, we can't really go outside anyway because of all the snow. So people, you might gain a little bit of weight here and there. And as long as it's nothing crazy, that's fine. But COVID-19 has changed the way we eat. We also maybe are eating out more, the whole support local thing. That's great. We don't want businesses to shut down. But when we eat out constantly, 4 or 5 times a week, that might not be the best for our bodies. I'm not saying every restaurant, but I'm saying a lot of restaurants, they add sugar, they add salt, they add fat to the foods to make them taste good. And we like food that tastes good. But are they the best for our bodies? Not constantly, not really. Once in a while, totally fine. But if we're eating out, 2 meals every single day, that might add up. So I wanted to try this today with you guys, is what's called polls. And essentially I'm going to ask you guys a question, and the question is going to pop up on your screen. And you guys can just click your answer and then you're going to press submit. And then I think I will be able to see your answers. So this is, okay, let me see here. Polls, launch poll. Okay. Caitlin, you might have to help me out here because I'm not sure if this is working.
So you should see, Robyn, I think you'll just see the results. And I think everybody else should have a question on their screen. Okay, they're coming in.
Perfect. Okay, now I can see it. Awesome. Okay, you guys, so the first question is, have your nutrition habits changed during the past 15 or so months? And this can mean a lot of different things. It can mean that we're eating more, we're eating less, we're staying about the same, we're eating different types of foods, we're going out to eat, we're cooking ourselves, we're trying new recipes. And this does not, the first question does not have to be bad. I'm just curious to see if your nutrition habits have changed. I know mine have. I think I've gained, let's say the COVID-4. The whole joke around COVID-19 is you gain 19 pounds. I think I'm at about 4 pounds, which is totally fine. Okay, so about half of you have voted so far. We'll give it a couple more minutes. We're at 7:50 p.m. right now. Okay, so right now, 61% of you, so about 2/3 of you have said yes, COVID-19, or your nutrition habits have changed the past 15 months, and about 1/3 of you have said no, they have stayed the same. Okay, and the second question, you guys, is how have your nutrition habits changed during COVID-19? And this, I gave you guys a couple options: eating more, eating less, or eating about the same. So not really any change. For me, I think it depends on the day. If I'm super bored, I will probably eat more. If I'm super busy with work and school and I don't really have time to eat, then less. But on average, probably a bit more. Okay, so 1/3 of you guys are saying more. 25% of you guys are saying less, and about 43% are saying no. You're eating about the same. I apologize if you guys can hear my dog barking. Okay, let's go to the third question. Are you guys eating out more during COVID-19? 20% of you guys say yes, 68% say no, and 13% say about the same. Okay. I would say I'm about the same too. Of course, I want to support the restaurants that I love because I don't want them to go out of business, but I want to make sure that I'm not indulging too much. But it is definitely very easy to just order in food. I get it. It's convenient, it's easy, it's comforting in times that we really are uncomfortable in. So I get that. Okay, last question. Are you guys eating more junk food during COVID-19? So things like chips, pop, candy, chocolate. 32%, so about 1/3 of you guys say yes, almost half of you say no, and 24% of you guys say no change. So that's really interesting. So these questions are anonymous, and I just really wanted to get an overview of what's going on with you guys. There have been studies saying that there are a lot of changes. People are eating out more. People are eating more junk food. People are drinking more. Definitely, alcohol consumption has gone way, way up. And I think it's because, people are bored. They're at home. There's not a lot to do. So things like that can really affect our nutrition intakes. Okay, and I think with that, that is my presentation. So it's 7:53, you guys. We'll do a few minutes of questions at 7:58. So in 5 minutes from now, I will show you the password. So if you guys need to leave at 8 o'clock, feel free. But I will stay on for a few minutes after if there are any burning questions. So I think I will end my presentation.
Perfect. Okay. So we have a lot of hands up. So I'll start with Tara. Do you want to ask your question first? You'll just have to unmute, Tara. There's a button on the bottom. There you go.
I take iron every night before around dinner time. I take iron for now.
Perfect. Yeah. If you need to take iron, then you take iron. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. Females oftentimes need more iron than men. Actually, we need about double the amount that men do, just because of, I'll say, biological reasons. So it's perfectly normal for a female, especially a female athlete, to take iron.
Perfect. Okay, Laura, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. Is it okay to have like a treat day every once in a while?
Of course, of course. I believe no food should be off limit. I believe in moderation. Have you guys ever heard of the 80-20 rule?
No.
Well, what that means is 80% of the time we want to be eating nutritious foods, our fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean meats, etc. And 20% of the time we can have our treats. So let's say if we eat good foods at breakfast, lunch, our snacks, our dinner, well, that's 4 out of 5 meals, so that's 80%. And our dessert can be a small treat.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely you can have cheat days, you can have cheat meals. Absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, Sarah, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I don't like drinking plain water, so I put lemon juice in it. Is that good to put in the water?
Yes, absolutely. Excuse me. Yes, any type of flavoring is great because it's going to ensure that or help us drink more water. Things we want to be a little bit more aware of are things like Crystal Light, those little packages that you dump in, or like something like Mios, as a lot of times those can have either added sugar or essentially like sugar substitutes. So even if we look at them and there's no calories, well, if we look at the ingredients, oftentimes there's things like aspartame in them or sugar alcohols. And even though there's no calories in them, our bodies actually react to them the same way as if we were just eating normal sugar. So they can, again, lead to sugar spikes. But things like lemon, bubbly is often a really great choice because it's naturally flavored. You can buy those little packets of, they're called, what are they called? True Lemon or True Lime. And they're just little packets of like dehydrated lemon crystals or lime crystals, and those are perfectly fine. So yeah, of course, add lemon juice. I love it.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Jordan, do you want to ask your question?
Okay, my question is, when I'm making soda stream, like I don't have it all the time, but I do have it in moderation. But I was just wondering, does it with carbonated water, does it kill your liver type thing?
Sorry, your liver?
Yeah.
No, I don't think carbonated water or carbonated drinks are going to affect your liver. What they might affect is just your tummy because carbohydrates, carbonated, it just means they're pumping air into it, so they becomes bubbly. And so when we're drinking the carbonated beverage, we're consuming air at the same time. And so what does air do? It's going to expand. So when it gets into our tummies, it's going to expand, and that can cause bloating. So that's really the only, I would say, negative effect of carbonated beverages, is it can maybe just hurt our tummies or cause bloating. But it shouldn't affect your liver.
Nice.
Okay, you guys, it is 7:58. I'm going to show you the password in case any of you guys have to leave, but I'm happy to stay for a few more minutes afterwards. So here is the password. It is Pink Panther. Can you guys see that?
Yep. I'll type it in the chat as well.
Awesome. So if you guys are heading out, thank you so much for joining me tonight with the nutrition seminar. I hope you guys learned something or were reminded of something if you came to the first one, but I wish you all the best, and I will be back in June for 2 seminars, so I look forward to seeing you guys then.
Perfect. And then Alex, do you want to ask your question? You have to unmute. There you go.
Okay. I got a question for you, Robyn.
Yes.
Is it possible to drink like a pot for just a weekend only?
Yeah, absolutely. Drink everything in moderation. I would say this is just my opinion, but I would say not every day. Maybe have a pop every second day. But yeah, definitely if you're going down to once a week, that's awesome. Of course, have a pop on your weekend. Of course.
Yeah, especially I had to cut down drinking pop starting from weekdays.
Yeah.
And one more question.
Yep.
Regarding the fruits and vegetables, do we have to eat them?
Do we have to eat fruits and vegetables?
Yeah.
Yes, I would definitely recommend eating fruits and vegetables every single day. I know it can be it can be hard. They might not be our favorite, but they really do provide us with a lot of benefits. So they're going to have macronutrients, they're going to have carbohydrates, even things like spinach, they're going to actually have protein in them, which sounds crazy, but they do. They're also going to give us lots of fiber, so help keep our gut health regular. They're also going to give us lots of vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals, and even water. So something like watermelon, it's like 95% water. So if we're eating watermelon, we're actually hydrating our body at the same time. So I would definitely recommend fruits and vegetables. I would say as much as you can, but definitely try and have 2 to 3 servings of fruit and 2 to 3 servings of vegetables every day.
Sounds good, Robyn.
Good question.
Yeah, great questions.
Brittany, you've had your hand up for a while. Do you want to ask your question?
I find that I'm out of shape and stuff, and I eat a lot of junk food ever since this COVID came. I've been eating more and more junk food, but I don't know if it's helpful. If I could cut junk food out and pop and sugar, is that a good suggestion?
Yes, but yeah, okay. So yes, cutting it out, no. So what I mean by that is definitely if you're thinking you're eating too much junk food, then try and maybe slowly cut it back. I wouldn't go from tomorrow you're off sugar, you're off junk, because your body is going to go, oh, why are you not giving me this? And you might have cravings, and that can be very, very difficult to navigate or ignore. So I would definitely be very steady about it and very easy on your body, and just make a challenge for yourself. Let's say tomorrow, okay, I'm going to, if I'm drinking, or sorry, if let's say I'm every day I've been to Starbucks for my Frappuccino. Maybe tomorrow I'll go to Starbucks and get a green tea, something like that. So just make little challenges for you, make it fun, make it easy, but I wouldn't go crazy and just cut everything out. You want to slowly ease up, but I wouldn't cut everything out because you don't have to. Everything in moderation, the 80-20 rule, I mentioned it before. Challenge yourself. Tomorrow I'm going to eat a good breakfast, I'm going to eat a good lunch, I'm going to eat a good dinner, and then I'll treat myself with a scoop of ice cream or something like that. So yeah, I would just make it fun, make it challenging. but
all right,
but go easy on your body.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Great question.
Okay, Danielle, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, I just wanted to thank you for the advice about foods with iron from last time. But
you're welcome.
But my question is, I don't eat a lot of gluten products, so I eat mostly rice or other products to get my carbohydrates. Do you have any other ideas?
Yeah, so being gluten-free is not an issue. I'm not gluten-free, but I would say some suggestions are something like oatmeal, so oats. Um, if you are super careful, oats don't have gluten in general, but the problem can be they might be processed in a factory that also does other things with gluten in them, so like bread. Um, so what you want to do is make sure that you go to the label and you find an oatmeal that says gluten free, and that will guarantee that there's no cross contamination. And in case you are sensitive or you do react negatively to gluten. So I would say things like oatmeal. I would say things like gluten-free pasta, gluten-free bread, just because those are really great carbohydrates for our bodies. Fruits, vegetables, dairy products don't have gluten, meats don't have gluten. So there's still quite a lot of foods that you can eat. It's just really looking at those carbohydrates that do have gluten, such as like bread, um, some pastas, I would assume, and things like highly processed foods. So things like a Big Mac at McDonald's, that's gonna have gluten in it. Donuts, that's gonna have gluten in it. So just find alternatives that you think you'll tolerate well that don't have gluten, so you can avoid that.
I actually did find one brand of pasta, the Aunt Annie's ones that I
Oh
find are
yes,
good.
yes, yeah, that's a great choice for sure.
Thank you very much, and thank you for a great session from last time and this time.
Thanks so much, Danielle. Thanks for joining again.
And if you look on the Peach website, you'll be able to see a video. I was the first Peach performer.
Oh, I'll go check it out for sure. That's awesome.
Okay, awesome. Lee, do you want to ask your question? You just have to unmute, Lee. There's a button on the bottom.
Yep.
There you go.
Robyn,
Hello.
when I'm my operation, or my colon operation, when I was drinking pop, the doctor told me to stir all. If I have pop, I stir all the bubbles out
Yeah.
to make it flat. Is that good or not?
Oh yeah, that's totally fine. I'm like you. I don't really like carbonation because I find it actually like hurts my mouth, which sounds so weird, but it's so like tingly. I don't really like that sensation. So I'm the same way. I leave my pop or my pop out or my bubblies out. Or another way you can do you can pour it into a cup and then take the cup and like bang it against the counter, and that can help get the bubbles out quicker as well. But yeah, definitely if you don't like the bubbles, stir it out. And I definitely agree with your doctor, especially since you are recovering from colon surgery. You do not want to be ingesting that extra carbonation. That can definitely irritate your digestive tract.
There's another question. What about Zivia drink?
Are
It,
those
it,
are you?
it's there less sugar, like no
Yeah,
sugar.
yeah. I've actually never tried them before, but I think they are sweetened naturally.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say those are probably fine. I would just look at the back to make sure there's no sugar alcohols or aspartame or things like that, because that could still be negative on your body. But I think for the most part, I think those are okay.
I think it's the sugar. It's called the sweetener sugar.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think they're fine. I wouldn't drink more than one a day just because they're probably expensive. So you don't want to be drinking them all in one go. But yeah, I would say they're probably fine.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good questions.
Okay, we'll do two more questions. There's
Sounds
one
good.
in the chat from Megan. She says, when it comes to takeout, like snacks and drinks, how could you make it better, and to make it more healthy?
Great question, Megan. Thank you. Okay, so when it comes to takeout, so things like restaurants and stuff. So tips that you can make it a bit more nutritious or healthier when you're ordering out food is you can ask them for. I mean, it depends on the cuisine and the restaurant, but you can ask for things like having your vegetables steamed. So for example, if you're ordering Chinese food and you're getting vegetables, they will probably pour this oyster sauce or some type of sauce over them, but you can say, you know what, I want my vegetables, but can you please just steam them? So there's nothing on them. So that's a bit healthier. Things like if you're ordering salad, ask for the dressing on the side, just so you can control how much you're putting on. Things like sushi, you be mindful of the amount of soy sauce you're putting on, because if you eat salt, it is going to draw water out of your cells to digest into your stomach. So you might be retaining water. Again, sushi, you could substitute for brown rice instead of white rice. So there are little things you can do to make takeout better. And then snacks and drinks. A great tip for snacks is to food prep. So things like having bananas and apples and fruits readily available to you. So once you go to the grocery store, you come home from the grocery store, wash all your fruits and vegetables right away so they're ready to go. Cut them up, put them in the fridge, or however you store them. And that way they're easy and accessible. You open the fridge for a snack, you're hungry, you see your cut apples, you see your cut cucumber, you see your hummus. Okay, perfect, that's my snack. And that's just going to make it a bit easier for you. It'll save you time. And if something is prepared, if a food is prepared, you're more likely to reach for it than something that's packaged. So drinks, I would say stick to water. And if you don't like plain water, I mean, that's totally normal. Add lemon juice to it or some type of flavoring. If you like coffee, maybe don't put a ton of sugar in it, or like those really artificial coffee creamers that you can buy. Stick to like something like whole milk or soy milk or whatever type of dairy or non-dairy milk you like. So things like that. But I'd say my biggest tip is just having foods ready for you and prepared, so you're more likely to eat those foods.
Okay. And then I think our
Hi, Robyn.
Hello. How are you, Carla?
I'm good. The question I would like to ask, my question is, my question is for water. Can I put in Fizzy Tab?
Fizzy Tab.
It's kind of what my mom has on our Arbonne stuff, and I have Fizzy Tab and it puts in water and it makes it more better than regular water.
Okay, this sounds really cool. I don't think I've heard of this before. So it's like a tablet, and you put in the water, and it gets all fizzy.
Yeah.
And okay, yeah. I mean, I think that's a great idea. I'm definitely not opposed to flavorings for water, because if it makes people drink more, then I'm all for it. I think the main issue, like I said before, is just making sure they're not really artificial ingredients. So I think as long as you look at you're not drinking or using more than 1 tab a day, I think you're totally fine. Again, they're probably expensive, so you want to make sure you're not, going through a whole pack in a day or something like that. But I would say, yeah, that's totally fine. If it's going to make you drink water, then that's perfectly fine. A tip I like to do is, if I have a flavoring, I will double the amount of water. So if I'm typically drinking this much water and I have a flavoring, I will double the amount of water, put the flavoring in, and that way I can get more water. The flavoring probably not that intense, but it is going to make me drink more water. Another tip is juice. I like to take a little bit of orange juice, put it in my water, dilute it. It just makes it taste citrusy, and it's making me drink more water. So yeah, I think your tablets are totally fine.
Thank you, Robyn.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. If you have any more questions, you can put them in our Facebook group and we can answer them there. But just wanted to be mindful of everyone's time tonight. So again, Robyn, thank you so much for coming. It's always great to have you on here. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was so great to see you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
Bye.